to A Well-Designed Business. My name is Luann Nigara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company WindowWorks from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. Leslie Price, the principal of Price Style and Design, is joining me today. Leslie is located in Lafayette, California, which is in the San Francisco Bay Area of California. Today, we have a really nice conversation about the turns her career has taken, beginning in the home staging industry and pivoting to strictly interior design. We talk about her studio and the wonderful setup that she has in collaboration with her upholsterer, and we have a discussion about the pros and cons of charging or not charging for her initial consultation. It turns out it came up in the conversation that she's just in the middle of thinking about if she should change her policy there. So we sort of pick it apart a little. We also learned that Leslie has a superpower in sourcing and selling art for her projects, and she explains to us why this is so important and personal to her. And she also tells us how she attracts clients who share this same passion for art through her Instagram. Before we get to the show, I'd like to remind you and also to thank our sponsor, Article.com. You know Article.com is your go-to resource for mid-century Scandinavian furniture for living rooms, dining rooms, offices, and outdoor spaces. And their To the Trade division is staffed by interior design professionals, so you have the assurance that they understand your needs when you work with them. To set up your trade account today, go to welldesigned.article.com. Please use this URL, welldesigned.article.com. And a tiny little teaser alert here. My new book, The Things I Learned from a Well-Designed Business, the Power Talk Friday Experts, is coming out in just over a week. So be sure to get on the list so that you know when it's exactly available. That is luannigara.com/book 2. Now, here's the thing. I want you to look out for this book because when you see the cover, that fabulous #podcast green velvet chair is the Sven chair by Article. That's right. So be sure to check that out. Alrighty. There are tons of tidbits of advice in this show today, and it is my great pleasure to introduce you to Leslie Price. Hi, Leslie. Thanks so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Hey, Luann. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Are you kidding me? I have to have the shoulder dance lady on the show. Come on.
Excellent. I have good moves.
You sure do. So for anybody who doesn't know what we're talking about, which is probably quite a few people, Leslie, oh my goodness, what was it, last summer? You made a video of you sitting at your desk, at your studio, working with my podcast playing in the background on your computer, and you doing the whole shoulder dance move to the podcast song.
I know, because I loved it. I mean, I love your music, and it makes me happy, and I don't know. I had to share my moves. I had been telling you about it, so I had to do it.
It was so funny. And of course, that was the original music. So that was the original music that my Uncle Bill, who is my podcast editor, wrote that music. So that's his original
I love
music.
That. Tell him I love it.
So anyway, and then we are also connected through Nicole Ballin from she's a PR agent, and I've known Nicole since the beginning of the podcast. And then all of a sudden you were, working with Nicole, and she's like, I have this really great lady that I'd love to introduce you. She's doing some really cool things. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, wait a minute, Leslie's my shoulder dance lady. Like, sure.
Yeah. No, Nicole is great. She's been very instrumental in helping me get press for my work, and I'm super grateful.
Yes. And just remind me, it's funny because I know her so long, I'm not even sure the name of the PR firm. Is it Ballin PR, just so we get it right?
Yep, Ballin PR, Ballin.
Right, exactly. Okay, so shout out to Nicole, and to anybody who might be thinking they need a PR agent, you certainly should look into her and make her one of your stops that you find out about. So we have some things to talk about here. You have a windy road to your recent, it's like a burst in the last year and a half for your business, right?
Yeah, it really has, and I it's almost like a midlife epiphany, really, where I have the time to give to my passion, and I'm ready for it.
I love it. I think that's so cool because, you just said to me off air that you're 56, I'm 56. And it's funny because your rebirth and your new passion and time, like you said, time in your life to dig into something is design. And for me, of course, it's the podcast. So it's hysterical, right?
Right. No, I think it's great. I mean, women in their 50s are powerhouse.
It is a different time, right? It just like the kids are grown, that's all done. And, wherever you are on the income ladder, for the most part, you're probably not nearly as pressed as you were in your 30s and 20s and even 40s when you're still, not for you, but we still had the college payments for our kids 8-10 years ago that are gone now.
Right, which is a huge relief. I mean,
right?
It's like getting a raise.
Yes, it is.
I always say I was lucky I only had 2 kids because I'm paying more college. Woo.
We had 4. So it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah,
but well worth it. You know what I mean? Especially if they turn out to be good kids.
Yes, exactly.
But it's our turn now, right? It's our time.
Yeah, exactly.
And also what's funny about this time is that you're a heck of a lot smarter, right? Yes, very much so. And I don't know about you, but things, roll off my back easier at this age than when I was younger. Mm-hmm. It's a good point to make because it's a combination of seeing it faster, something that really is something to get tied up in knots about, and somebody that's like, whatever, I don't need to really worry about that, right? Like you could just it's almost like prioritizing everything from tasks to information to situations in almost 10 seconds instead of 10 hours. It's like you don't angst over it anymore, right? I don't know. I'm speaking for me. Are you experiencing the same thing?
No. Yeah, I don't angst over it. I definitely just go with the flow because I know in the end it's all going to work out.
I love it. That's how I feel too. It's like, all right, well, I wouldn't have picked this path, but all right, I guess I got to go down it. We'll figure it out. It's going to be good on the other side. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. So here's the thing. I'm going to put everybody up to speed a little bit. So you come from a different background. You were in event planning and visual planning and lots of things. And then you had time to raise these 2 amazing children of yours. And then a realtor friend brought you into the industry by asking you to help stage some of the properties that she was selling. And then like many people that stage properties, then the homeowner that buys that home is so happy and impressed with the staging that they started to hire you to do the interior design for them. And that's how this sort of started. Is that right?
Yes, totally. And, it was a snowball effect. So it definitely started with the staging and just, making that house look appealing for a potential buyer. And then obviously it spoke to those buyers and, it went from there.
So it's funny because we've had so many people on the show that really don't come from an education in design, whatever. I mean, and from regular people all the way to major celebrities that have not done that, comes to designs through that route. But I just realized I have not really asked too many people, how did you I understand staging. And I also do not want to say that it's easy. It's a whole different animal to interior design, and it has its criteria and it has principles that if you don't follow, you will not be a successful stager. I 100% legit agree to that. But it is sort of, you can almost see if you have great taste and you are even just moving somebody else's stuff around in their own house to some level is staging. It's like you've got the pictures all at the ceiling, lady. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
Right. But there's a difference now going to, and will you do interior design for my home and buying furniture and making sure the scale is right and the proportion is right. How did you make that transition, Leslie?
Well, it's interesting. While you're posing that question, I'm thinking, how did I figure that out? I actually probably from my mom, who she was an artist and she had a passion for interior design, and she used to draw scale floor plans before she moved with furniture. And so I understood the fact that space planning comes first, and how you walk through the space or how you live through the space. And then I searched online for drawing programs and educated myself in CAD and, it just, and now I always start with the space plan because I have to see how everything is going to fit. So I think it just, it initially came from my mother, who ironically built a scale model of a house out of styrofoam before she built it. I mean, so she got it.
That's interesting. And so what I love about that is that by learning from her and osmosis of watching her do it, you understand the value and the importance of it. So it's not like, oh, I just started throwing stuff at the walls and see if it worked. You actually, even though you didn't come from a design degree program, you went about it very intentionally, educating yourself and starting with the plan and so forth. So that's interesting. I didn't expect that answer. That's cool. Very cool. And so in the last couple of years, about 3 years, you have, after doing staging for many years and probably doing staging and design, both one and the other, you have now turned away and now strictly do interior design. Tell us about that, why you've done it, and what has come from that.
So, initially staging was really fun and great. And then it just, for me, got to be a grind, and it's very physical. You're lifting and carrying and schlepping and moving and transporting. And I just woke up one day and said, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore.
I have carried my last sofa across the room.
Exactly. And it just wasn't bringing me the joy that actually, putting together a room for somebody was. And I just said, I'm going to leave staging and I'm going to find a place where I can do what I want to do, and I'm going to make it work. And luckily, my husband was very supportive, and I just kind of went with my vision.
Okay, so you leaned into, you heard this voice, you heard this thing, and you just said it's done. And now you leap off and say, I'm just going to do this one part. Did you have any sort of, was your realtor friend, and you must have gotten a nice level of clientele in that at that point, right? So that's hard to walk away.
Yeah. So the interesting thing is there were several realtors that I worked for who still refer me clients now just for interior design. So that was an unbelievable connection that I made, because those realtors knew my work, my work ethic, and they understood the physical aspects of staging, and that I, wasn't willing to do that anymore. But they still refer me to clients, and it's just been incredible. And of course, I always send them a thank you gift and a thank you note, and try to keep up with them as much as possible, and also refer them business.
Right.
It's a great thing.
And is there some lucky stager in your area that you're able to refer and they get all the business that you're not taking?
Yeah. So actually, one of my really, just a really good friend who started staging a few years after I did, I sold all my furniture to her. I referred every agent to her, and she's killing it. She's doing great.
Wow. Now, when you say sold all your furniture to her, did you have a warehouse space, or how did you do that? Because I know we have a stager here in New Jersey, Leah Gomberg, Sweet Life, and she's got a warehouse. She's got shelves. I mean, there's 4,000 vases and all kinds of stuff, right? You had all that?
Yeah. So, I mean, that is a whole different story where, I started off accumulating my own inventory because every staging job, you need something new. You never have enough. And so it started in my garage, then it went to a storage unit, then it tripled to 3 storage units. And then one of the real estate agents that I worked with had her own warehouse with her own staging furniture. And so I was able to pull from hers so that I wasn't continually investing in furniture. And so I helped her basically pay her rent. She charged me a fee to use her furniture. It was great.
Wow. So, and the thing is that just before we move to the design and finish the staging off, it is hard work. Like you said, it's physical work, and it's all the schlepping, the back and the forth, and things break, and clients break things, and, guests that come in the house to look at the home. There's a lot of moving parts in that business. It's not something, hey, why don't I just be a stager, right?
Yeah. And I have to also say that for anybody who thinks that staging is super glamorous and fun, I want to mention that what I learned through all of this is that 9 times out of 10, people who are selling their house are not happy. There's always that one person who is moving up, stepping up to a better house. But for the most part, it was death, divorce, people losing their jobs, having to relocate. And so you are always kind of tiptoeing around these emotions of people that obviously have great attachments to their house and why they had to leave it. So it was part psychiatrist, part designer.
And then you add to it that it's usually something that's done under a huge time pressure too.
Yes. Correct.
I remember Shauna Lynn Simon being on the show a couple of times, and she is a professional home stager, and she also is a business coach for home stagers, and she also has a chapter in my upcoming book about home staging.
Ooh,
and yes,
cool.
yeah. And I remember her saying and explaining how it could be from the time you give see the home, give the proposal, and execute could be 4, 5, 6 days because they need this house on the market.
Right. They got to get it photographed, and the marketing materials, and a
lot of pressure.
It is
on top of the emotions, is what you're describing.
Right.
Yeah. That's not easy because that is if you're not moving because you're moving somewhere happy, that's not a fun place to be.
Right.
Interesting.
Right.
Okay. So you decide that you are going to lean into interior design full-time, walk away from the staging aspect, and that was about 3 years ago, and you're killing it.
Oh, well, thanks. I think part of it is because I love what I do. And I think when you have that excitement to get out of bed every day to see what's next, and every day is different, I love it.
Okay. And one of the things that you have going on is that you have a little retail space, which is not the normal. Lots of designers do, but so many don't. Tell us about the retail space and what it means to you and to your business.
Okay. So I was working out of my house and finding that I was not super productive because I was getting sidetracked with things that were happening at the house. And I actually just visualized what I would want my space to be. And I kept thinking, I want a light and bright space in a good part of town with walking traffic and driving traffic, but good parking. And so I started to tell some of the local retailers that I knew in my area, like, hey, I'm looking for a space. If you hear of anything, let me know. And lo and behold, one of my retail friends who's a tailor said, "Hey, Leslie, this space is coming up next door to me. Are you interested?" And I was like, "Yeah." So it that's how I kind of found it, and it's great because also having a storefront, even though I call it a studio, it's not really a store, but you need to have good retail neighbors. What is the business that's next to you, and who are they attracting? Because we're all kind of in it together there.
Mm-hmm. And so the thing about this is let's get clear on the distinction. You have not set up a cash and carry boutique store with accessories and candles and items and pillows and things like that. This is a place for you to work and to simply meet clients.
Yes. So I have set it up where I have samples. I have tons of carpet samples. I've got all my fabric books, all the things, the tools of my trade. I do have it. It looks really cute. I mean, I've got a sofa and a cute rug and, a furniture line that I represent. But it's not a place where people can come in and buy a hostess gift. Okay. I'm definitely open. If I'm in there and somebody wants to come in and talk to me about interior design, I'm happy to do that. But it's definitely an office, by appointment where I meet my vendors and my clients.
Okay. And so two things go through my mind there, and I hope I don't forget one of them. Two things are, the first thing is that by not having the product to sell, there must have been a conversation in your mind about affording and making it worthwhile to rent in a retail location, because you could have a location that is not on the main street and would probably be less per square foot, is my guess. So was that part of the equation on this?
Well, so there were, I didn't want to be beholden to a store because that is just not what I wanted.
It's like lugging furniture again. We don't need another job at 56 years old. I hear you.
Exactly. But for me, I wanted that kind of storefront location for visibility. And I know it sounds funny, but because of the light, if I rented an office space, I felt like, it would just be more corporate looking America with, windows that are halfway up. But right. It just was the way it all looked and felt.
And you manifested it. It sounds like you visualized it. You knew exactly what you wanted. And then one day there it was. Yeah.
And I have to say, it was the first time I've ever done that in my life. And it worked.
Oh, you have to do it more often.
I know, I'm going to.
Once you do it, it's like kind of addictive, isn't it?
Yeah. No,
it's like, wait, I'm a pretty powerful witch. Okay. So that's good. So, but it must fit dollar wise. I mean, we can't just go out and rent $5,000 a month, and we're unless we know that we have the pipeline and other things. So I'm sure it fits dollar wise. You've been doing it for a few years.
Yeah. So, I mean, and I mentioned to you that I share the space rent-wise with an upholstery company that I use for all my reupholstery for my clients. So we are mutually, we work very closely together. The beauty is the space is so small, they actually can't work out of there with all their machinery and all of that. So they use it as basically an address and a place where their clients can come look at fabric, which I'll help them with, or drop off furniture that needs to be worked on. And they split the rent, and it's a match made in heaven.
So what they have is they don't want their client coming to where they work. They probably have something in an industrial space.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And they don't want their clients coming there. They don't want to clean up. They don't want to make it look good. And also they don't want the address of their business for SEO to be that industrial space. They want the address of the retail space.
Exactly.
Interesting. And so are the fabric books theirs? Do they keep a library there, or do they rely on your library now that you're splitting the space with them?
They do have their own books, which is great. They have their own separate accounts, but they also use mine as well.
And so this is like a little technical thing. If one of their clients comes in and wants to look at fabrics, do they need an appointment so that somebody from the upholstery company can come over and meet them and take care of that? Or are you sort of expected to handle that for them?
I'm expected to handle it, but I appreciate it. I don't not want to do it. It's because I feel like they're providing me an amazing amount of value, just by splitting the rent. So I'm happy to help them.
So it feels very win-win. You feel like they're splitting the rent. They're really not there. And if they have a client every day or every other hour, you're happy to get up and spend some time with them. And I'm sure you're creating a rapport with that client too. The client might have thought, I'm just going to reupholster a chair. Next thing I know, they're going to redesign the room.
Right. Yeah.
It's like target client.
Yeah,
okay.
exactly.
You're in the middle of redecorating.
Right.
Okay. So that's a very narrow slice of possibility of finding this exact scenario for somebody, right? Like how lucky and how fortunate.
I know. And it really was just serendipitous because I just happened to mention to the upholstery people, what I was doing. And they said, can we do it with you? And I said, okay.
Wow. So there's an idea. Somebody could have an upholsterer that they trek back into the backwoods of the industrial park in their neighborhood and suggest something like that and say, would you think about splitting rent in a retail space and blah, blah, blah. Or it doesn't have to be the upholsterer. It could be any trade that, because a lot of trades do have their business back in the industrial areas of our different cities and neighborhoods because, of course, they need a lot of square footage and it's, such a fraction of the price of a retail square foot.
Right.
I like it. I like it. Very interesting. I love new ideas that are like, didn't think about making that kind of alliance, right?
Yeah. No, it's been a great relationship.
And they sound like they are because you could almost see somebody trying to finagle and saying, well, you're really the one here. Why don't you pay 3/4 and we'll pay 1/4? It's like, stop.
I know. I know. Yeah. And that's, it's a family run business and they're just fantastic.
They get the value too. That's awesome. I love it. That's really cool. And for everyone listening, the picture on your website shows you standing at the front door of your studio. And it's adorable. You're adorable. The studio's adorable. It is. It looks just like the way you describe it, just light and bright and cute and everything else. So how fun. What a fun way to go to work every day.
Yeah, thanks. I love it.
Yes, very cool. Very cool. So another thing I noticed when I looked at your website, Leslie, was that you do not charge for your initial consultation. And that was interesting to me because you rarely see that in the design world, that a designer is not charging for that first consultation. So I was curious your philosophy on that and how you came to that decision.
Well, I have to tell you, I struggle with it because my husband is in sales and he helps me a lot, just coaches me on, sales pitches and all of that. But he really, ingrained in me that it's a meet and greet for them to see if they like me and for me to see if I like them. There have been times when I've walked into homes where I think I've got to get out of here right away, for various reasons, it's just not the kind of project I want or the type of neighborhood or whatever it is, or the budget. And it just doesn't feel right to charge if they haven't met me yet. Now, that being said, I am getting to the point where I feel like there are a lot of tire kickers that just want to have me over for, an hour to bounce ideas, and then I send over the paperwork and I never hear from them. So that gets a little frustrating, and I'm still kind of trying to figure out how do I gauge those type of people.
And so do you have an initial phone call with them prior to, you obviously you just don't show up at their house, but is that phone call 5 or 10 minutes or is that phone call more in depth?
It's a 5 or 10 minute phone call. I have a questionnaire on my website that most people fill out, and they describe the project. I ask about the budget, which is hard for people to commit to. And then I say, sure, I'll come out and take a look. But you know, I, I'm not, I have to say, I think I might be changing how I do it.
And so I'm curious. I'm totally curious about this now. So what do you think you will change it to what amount?
So I'm actually thinking of charging for up to a 2 hour consultation, where, they get definitely some ideas, direction, bring my computer, show them ideas, physical, or visual ideas. And I'm toying with the fact that, they'll pay for that. And if they end up going with me, I'll credit some of it back. So I'm thinking like $425 up to 2 hours. And then I'll credit half back if you end up going with me.
Okay. So I'm okay. I'm still with you, and I'm still got questions before I start sharing my opinions. So when you go on your consultation now, the free one, are you sharing no ideas, some ideas, tons of ideas?
Some ideas, because I feel like they want to see what my vision is. And if I say, gosh, this is a nice space, it would be really great if you hired me. Instead I say, well, I see two sofas. I see this is the way the rug would go. I would do built-ins over there, that kind of thing. I definitely give them, conceptual ideas.
And you visualize the difference as if you are going to charge for the 425, that it's going to be more ideas or more significant or more detailed, or what?
I would say more detailed, and we'd probably sit down and look at examples like, what do you think of this rug, or where do you see how do you see that fabric playing into your space, that type of thing.
Okay. And what about when you do it now, are you usually there an hour and approximately an hour, or does it often run to 2 hours? Okay, so you get out of there. You get out of Dodge.
Yeah, but I'm definitely there for close to an hour. I mean, I
Right.
like to do a whole walkthrough of the space and look at the current furniture that they have and what they want to keep and how do they see themselves living in that space. And then taking some time to talk about me and what my processes are.
So again, keep gathering information here. So when you think about switching, what happens when somebody has worked with somebody who knows you, or somebody just pushes you back and says, I thought it was a free consultation, or I looked at your website last year and it was free and now you're charging? How do you picture navigating that conversation?
Well, it's funny. I've been taking notes on some of the things that, some of my Facebook interior design groups are sharing. And, thinking of really saying, I'm going to provide you value, whether or not you hire me or not. I'm going to discuss the whole process so you understand how a designer works, and I'm going to give you, ideas that you can implement on your own if you decide not to use me.
Okay. And why do you want to change now? You said that you have been noticing tire kickers. What percentage are you going on the appointment and not converting? Do you have any idea?
I would say, I convert probably 70%, but I think the thing that irks me the most is when I feel like I have a great rapport with somebody and, I see their home and I meet their spouse or their kids and we have a conversation, and then they don't give me the courtesy of saying, hey, Leslie, thanks for coming by. We've decided to go in another direction. That's all I want to hear. It's just, I feel like I've taken the time. Oftentimes it's a weekend or an evening. And then I've put together a proposal with, hourly estimates and what we talked about. And it's kind of a courtesy thing.
Okay, so here's my thoughts. First of all, I know that 99% of designers listening charge for their consultations. It's not lost on me. However, I think that's great. I think it's awesome. I've always secretly thought, I think there's room for not also, which I know everyone just went, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But I come from sales as well. Right. So my thing is, I just want the opportunity to get face to face. I want it because if I get face to face, I'm like you. I'm going to convert 7 out of 10. And I don't feel like that's a bad thing, converting 7 out of 10. I have to tell you. And I also have to say that if the 3 out of 10, if that's upsetting you because you're doing X amount of work on the back end after and they're not acknowledging or saying anything, I'm just playing devil's advocate here. I almost wonder if you couldn't just change that part of the equation. So I come out to you, it's no charge. We have a consultation. It's a meet and greet. I see if I like you, you see if you like me. I throw some ideas around. But if you want a proposal that's organized and gives you some solid ideas, there's a charge for that. Do you want it?
Yeah. Oh, that's a great idea.
Say.
No, I know, because it's like, I mean, sometimes you do want to meet the person who's going to be in your home before you hire them.
Right.
But there's also, the plumber who charges, just to come out and look at your problem. Right. So,
for me, if you said to me, I am going out and I'm converting 30%. Then my brain wants you to get more money up front. But if you're converting 70% to full-time, full service design, there's really nothing to lose here. And I feel like, I know it's sacrilegious, and I just feel like everything doesn't have to be cookie cutter. And, from this model that you're doing, if it's really 70%, I would say start there. Is it really 70%? Go back and do your numbers. Don't say 70 and found out it's 42, because that is a big difference in money. Okay. But if it really is 70%, then do you feel like, because I'm going to say for me, I sort of get the feeling of the person, like I'll walk out the door and like, they're not going to call. Like that's not going to happen. Right. Like they're not going to call. And so you could, for the person who you feel good about, like right now, those 7 out of 10 people that you feel pretty good about, and you're like, I think we're going to work together and I want this project. This is good for me too. I'm going to send them some proposal. I think we're going to move forward. Though you could say that part is refundable. If you know what I mean? Like if you go ahead. So the 7 out of 10 that are going to hire you anyway, no love loss. You didn't make any less or more money. And the 3 out of 10 that were going to waste your time with doing the proposal aren't going to pay you for the proposal, so you don't do the darn thing.
Right.
They're the ones that are just like, oh, I got her ideas. I should move all of my paintings from the ceiling down to eye level.
Right.
Right? I mean, I'm not suggesting that 9,000 designers out there listening should change their model. But I just feel like, you've got a model that's sort of working for you. And I don't know that you need to throw the baby out with the bathwater on it.
All right.
Okay.
Well, I appreciate that.
So we had a little on-air coaching here.
I love it. Thank you.
But I just didn't expect to go down that road with that whole thing. But when I, was learning some things, I just, because too, you sound like you know what you like. You sound like you know when you don't want to work with somebody. So for you to give that up, that's what you're going to give up there. You're going to end up taking money from people, and they're going to be, well, I gave you money and now this, and you're going to be saying, yeah, I don't really want to work with you. And I don't know that you want to give that freedom up.
Right. That's true. That is true.
So if it takes you 3 hours to put a proposal together, charge them, $425 to do that. And the person, you can say to those 7 out of 10 that you think could really be good and you think they're rational, normal people who understand the value, you could say, and if you decide to go ahead with me, 200 of the 425 we can put towards the first, billable hour on the project. So whatever would work, right? But anybody else that just takes the 425 and then doesn't hire, that pays the 425 and doesn't hire you, well, guess what? Now they can run around to, the retail stores and decorate their house. But you made 425, so you don't care.
Right.
Because you were about to do that anyway.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
All right.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I don't know. Something to think about.
Right. I love it.
Okay. So now, so the thing is, now let's get to one of your superpowers. One of your superpowers as an interior designer, you expressed to me, is that you have a knowledge and an appreciation and a mission is probably a really huge word for this, but a passion is probably a better word for helping your clients select and own, purchase and own fine art or original art or art that can be left to their generations. Tell us about that, Leslie.
So, again, it goes back to my mother, who was an artist and an art lover and art collector. And if you look at how the world tells their story, when you're traveling, you go to museums and you look at art from, what has transpired throughout the generations. And I just really believe that art is a legacy that tells a little bit about your soul, and it's something that can be passed on. While I am in the interior design business, furniture isn't going to make it for 100 years, and things go in and out of style, and I just don't see furniture as lasting gifts to pass on. So art, if chosen correctly, does gain value and adds to your portfolio or your assets.
And so what are you doing? Okay. What are you, I'm trying to think which question I want to ask first. So the first question I guess to go to is, are you finding that you're working with a client and you're the one saying, hey, had you thought about investing in original art? Can I tell you about it and the value? Or are somehow you attracting to you clients that already are predisposed to that, and it's just a meeting of the minds, and you get it and I get it, and I have the talent and the skill to help you select it?
Yeah, so it's both. Some people don't, I try to educate them on art if they haven't ever, purchased a piece of art that is, of value or of special meaning. But I attract a lot of people who are interested in art, and a lot of that happens through my Instagram account because, the most of the work that I share because the design started based on my client's art or the selection of art. And I also like to share the work of artists whose work I admire. So I've made connections in the art world, not only with galleries, but with individual artists who I personally admire that my client base is now interested in. So it's actually, it's a kick. It's really fun.
Well, it sounds like you're doing everything right. You are making the relationships, or probably had them out of your own passion to begin with the art community, right? The artists and the galleries and so forth. But then because you're sharing it and you're putting it, it's like, well, you say all the time, put out what you love to do, put out the type of work that you love to do, and draw your people back to you. And that's what I was wondering. How does it happen? Chicken or the egg? Because I can see the rare person. Like, I don't think you're going to convince 7 out of 10 people that have no interest in art and that were interested in designing their room with you to just say, yeah, and on top of all of this, let's just do fine art too. Let's do original art, right? It almost is. There is a clientele. There is a demographic of people who do inherently understand and place value on it. A lot of the world does not. A lot of the regular people walking around would be like, why would I do that? I can go get a reproduction at XYZ. So you're attracting it in that way. That's very good. So, and then I'm sure the galleries, they meet clients and they're patrons of the gallery, and something comes up. Oh, we're going to redecorate. This piece is going to go there. Do you know a designer? Or just they say, here's a designer for you, right?
Yep. And, one little thing I wanted to mention is that even if a client, doesn't want to invest in original art, oftentimes they have things that they've collected on their travels. I have a client right now who has a print of a city in England or that her husband was from, and they wanted it framed and put in their living room. And so we really used that as the jumping point. They knew that I loved art, and they were like, well, here's our art.
Okay.
So
it doesn't have to be a $20,000 piece. It just has to be something that's meaningful to them. And with your expertise, you help them, make the most of it.
Right, right.
And to that end, when you are specifying and finding and locating original art for your clients, is there a gamut of this price range, or it's like, well, pretty much it's going to start in the 5 or 10 or 20,000, or is it possible to find something for $700 that's totally amazing and wonderful?
Yeah, well, it is totally possible. I really like to look for up and coming artists, and I just had a client who I posted. Usually on Sundays on Instagram, I'll say, happy Sunday, sharing the art of so-and-so. And I had come across this woman in Atlanta, Georgia, whose work I really liked, named Stephanie Henderson. And my client immediately said, I want that piece. And so I contacted the artist, and she said, oh, it's sold, but I can do a commission. So there was, and we said, well, here's our price range. Okay, I could totally do that. It was great.
Whoa, that's interesting. And so when you do find these, so that in that situation, the client, the piece spoke to the client. That client isn't like, and I'm buying this piece because I'm going to pass it on for a legacy and it's going to be worth money. That spoke to them. But when you are looking for and in the community of the up and coming, is it possible for you to even actually know if it could potentially be a legacy piece that will be worth more a generation later? Or is that that's a crapshoot, and that's when you're buying a piece that speaks to somebody? Is it, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. The only thing I can say, and I don't know how I know, not that I just say, I just know, but, I can usually tell if somebody's work has started at a certain level and gained traction and then gained gallery notoriety and then, the price increase. It's about supply and demand, or, demand of the work. Do I know it's going to be valuable in 200 years? Probably. No, I don't know. But I hope it is, because it's going that way, while we're here.
So what that is there are ways to analyze it from a critical standpoint, not just, hey, it just looks great, I'm sure it'll be worth more money. Like, there are markers and ways for you to make your best guess or best estimate of it. And nobody's expecting you to sign on the dotted line of what it will be, but there is a process, is really what I'm trying to say. There's a process.
Yeah. There's a process.
There's a thought process to it. And okay. And then, of course, and as we said a moment ago, when something speaks to a client or you for a space, then it's off the table. It's just, that's like buying a beautiful sofa that speaks to somebody. They want it. They love it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you can tell, I mean, the whole mood changes when they found something they love.
So how about the process of doing that? That must, I hear, we talk with designers here all the time about, I can't get down a rabbit hole sourcing the perfect light for this dining room. I waste too many hours and I spend 6 and I only bill 3. How about the process of finding art? That's got to be even more elusive. Are you charging by the hour for that, or how do you do that?
So if for the most part, it's done on an hourly basis, because it's part of a design, of a room or a home. But if it's specific, just like help me find art that I love, I have a flat fee. And it usually takes about, I don't know, between 8 and 10 hours.
Wow. And do you have a number of resources that are both local to you and online?
Yes.
Okay. Very interesting. That's because I would think the fact that you just said takes 8 to 10 hours, I would think it could take 25 hours one day and 2 hours the next day. Like, I would not think that it could be quantified like that.
Yeah. I think it's, we have a discussion of, what visually appeals to them. Sometimes it's abstract, sometimes it's landscape, sometimes it's figurative. Is it bright colors? Is it muted colors? What, and when we look at, we'll go online and just look at art and then start narrowing it down.
And so the flat fee that you charge for that, there must be agreements set up front that it has nothing to do, and it's not going to change higher or lower. If I charged you $500 for a flat fee, I hope it's more than that for 8 or 10 hours, but I'm just saying, and we find a piece that's $200, they don't get to look at you and say, well, how did I spend $500 for you to find a $200 piece? Like, if you love the $200 piece, lady, it's yours, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that actually hasn't happened.
You're like, Luann, your numbers are so off. These pieces are 12 grand. Okay. So the question that I have with this is, it's kind of funny because our whole industry is legitimately up in arms and getting, hit in the stomach constantly because designers take their time, energy, design something, scale, proportion, and then clients just go out on the internet and they find the lookalike for it and say, oh, never mind, I'm not going to have you buy my stuff. So on one hand, the answer to that for our industry is to try and specify more trade, is to specify product that your client can't source. But we're not really going to find original artists trying to hide their hide their goods from the whole world. So yours is definitely out there. And yours, is it just that the consumer that is looking for fine art out the gate is going to be taking this from the standpoint of, I know I can buy this on my own, I want to pay for help doing it? Is that what's happening here?
Yeah, I think that also there's an intimidation factor that a lot of consumers or people who don't work with artists are intimidated to reach out and speak with an artist directly. So, and I'm clearly very comfortable doing that. So they don't understand that, oh, you can get a commission with the same colors in a different size, if so I just think there's this intimidation factor that I can help bridge.
Right. So it's kind of like I said, they know they could technically do it without you. They're choosing to begin with to do it with you. They're not like trying to partway do it and then go, okay, never mind. It's like they need you all the way through and they know it going in. Right. The crossover is the same thing that we say on the show, is to constantly express to your client your value in the process, whether it's art or it is the designing of the furnishings and the delivering of the furnishings. It's your value in that whole process of the purchasing and the specifying and the purchasing and the receiving and the delivery and la, right?
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
It's just a little clearer line for you in that world because of the intimidation factor. That's the thing. Right. Okay, interesting. And what a gift. Is your mom alive still, Leslie?
No. No, but I will tell you that there was this epiphany when cleaning out my parents' house when they passed, and when we went to look to gather up the art collection that they had. My brothers and I had no idea that she, on the back of each piece of art, had written why she purchased it, where she purchased it, what she was drawn to about the art. And that just really struck me and moved me. And so it moved me. And I encourage my clients to do the same, write a little note. Why did this mean so much to you? Why is it hanging in your house in this particular place? So
I love that. That's so nice. And it's so nice that you encourage them to do that as well, because it's the truth. I mean, how many times we go into a home and your parents have moved things to a different room or in the back room or in a closet, and you're just like, what are they doing with this? Right. And meanwhile, your mom's like, when we were in Paris our very first time and I was 28 years old and your father bought this for me.
Right. And, it's true. There was a piece in their house that, we didn't know was an original piece. And, we were going to give it to the Goodwill. And it was a very, famous artist out of Montana that, she had, purchased this piece from. And we were like, ooh, glad we found that out.
Whoa. And your mom was an artist herself. Did you have works that she did?
Yeah, I do. I do. And she again came into her own in her 50s, and after she had raised us and started painting and selling her work, and she did well.
And what was her specialty? What type of art did she do?
Well, what's interesting is she started out in doing impressionist style, and it evolved. My parents we grew up in Hawaii, and they moved to Montana at the end of their life. And her, what she ended up doing was Native American portraiture, and it was phenomenal.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's first of all, that's amazing, that progression of her art in that way. But also, it's sort of like, who goes from Hawaii to Montana? It's all backwards.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy.
I know. It was real outdoors people. Plus, the cost of living was a lot less.
Right. To be retired in Hawaii is a lot more difficult than being retired in Montana. That's right.
Yeah. Believe me, they were less. But,
that's so funny. That's so funny. Oh my goodness, that's awesome. So I think this is pretty cool. You have a lot of good things that you really give us to think about here. The possibility of an alliance with some sort of complementary trade, and certainly all the better if you can actually not have them in your space.
Yes.
But there could be some accommodation, I guess.
Exactly.
That's a pretty cool thing. I like that new thought. And then, of course, this is your passion. You listen to the show, Leslie, and we have Fred Burns that have said to us so many times, "What's your only? What makes you different?" And of course, this knowledge that you have from your mother that has turned into a passion that you share with her is something that is not every designer is going to be able to bring that to the table in their projects, and that is a nice only for you.
Yeah, thanks. It's just it's my heart. Like I just love it.
Yeah, so that's pretty outstanding. And then, of course, we have that whole little conversation about the consultation, whether or not I just food for thought there for somebody who's doing it the way you're doing it, and somebody. I mean, I know there's no right or wrong here. It is what's right for you. You said it in the beginning. You listening to your gut now. You know what I'm saying? So,
right.
And I would say to you, despite everything that I said, if your gut is telling you I should be moving to 425 for a 2-hour consult, then you run right to that. I believe that too. I believe your gut is always, no matter who tells you what or whose opinion you hear, you do have to listen to your voice.
Right. Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, definitely. Because it won't turn you wrong. It definitely will not turn you wrong. It can't. It's not possible. So your voice is all knowing.
I know.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I thank you so much for coming on the show. And I have to tell everybody, somewhere, somehow, I don't know if it'll be in stories, it'll be on Facebook, it'll be on the YouTube, but you've got to see Leslie's shoulder dance to my intro, outro music. And I'm going to definitely share it somewhere with the show. It's absolutely adorable.
Oh, well, boy. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for doing that. Thank you for listening to the show, and thank you for being on the show today, Leslie. Thanks.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Shows like this, I just love them. I think they're so fun that when you just sit and you discuss with somebody the twists and turns of their career, the decisions that they made and the reasons that they decided to do one thing over another, I find it interesting to follow that journey. And there was one thing that I learned from Leslie after we were done the show, and I wanted to take a moment to mention it. Leslie worked with the Savor Partnership, whose founders are our very own industry icons, Leslie Carruthers and Sam Henderson. And she worked with them in their firm to create a lead magnet for her website. And so I want you to be sure to go over to Leslie's website, price, style, and design and see this lead magnet that Savor Partnership made for them. And you can also learn more about Savor Partnership and how Leslie and Sam help you create the highest quality 4-page color lead magnet for your interior design firm by listening to episode number 209. Okay? Now, we also talked, Leslie and I, about the home staging business, how physical it is and how different it is from interior design. And we've had several shows on this topic as well. So if you are interested in home staging, you be sure to check out these episodes with Shauna Lynn Simon, Johan May Interiors, Taylor Spellman, and Marianne Cherico. You'll find all of the episode numbers for these shows in the show notes for today's show. And just as an aside, a shout out to Marianne Cherico, who just last month launched her very own podcast called Home Stagers and Designers on Fire. So congratulations to you, Marianne. I am enjoying your first few episodes so far. And you guys, if you're interested in home staging, please go to look for that show on iTunes, Home Stagers and Designers on Fire. Okay, now, and I just got to say, if you really want to know about home staging, then you should be joining us at Luann Niagara Live. It's about the conversation, I'm just saying, because both Shauna Lynn Simon and Taylor Spellman will be there to talk about the best practices for home staging, as well as the differences to home staging and interior design. Shauna Lynn Simon has written a chapter in my new book called The Things I Learned from a Well-Designed Business, the Power Talk Friday Experts. And of course, she will be there as part of my launch of this book at Luann Niagara Live. So the VIP is already sold out, sorry, but we do have, as the time I'm recording this, about 20 seats left for the 2-day event. So please go over to luannlive.com for information and tickets. Alrighty. So I'm looking forward to seeing all of you guys. We've got over 150 interior designers coming already to the event. I hope you're one of them. It is going to be off the hook. I just keep saying it. I'm a broken record because it's so true. That's the reason why I keep saying it. All right. You guys. Lots of advice here from Leslie in this show. I do appreciate her time with us today. I do appreciate your time with us today. And I would love to know in the comments on Instagram or in Facebook for this post what your takeaway was. All right. What is the thing that you are going to do in order to move your business forward? Because you know what I always tell you, you have to make a decision. You have to decide to be excellent. Thank you so much for joining me again today. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks, your resource for custom window treatments and awnings. To learn how we can help you on your next interior design project, go to www.windowworks-nj.com. And if you're interested in working with me on your business, either through masterminds or one-on-one coaching, or you want to know how to get my book, The Making of a Well-Designed Business, or you just want to know what's going on in the podcast land and where I'm going to be, all of that is found at luannniagara.com. Thank you so much. Have an excellent day.